Hi.
Hi,
How
how are
you doing?
Great.
Good.
Good to meet you in person.
I know.
finally.
Good to meet you as well. So today we're gonna just talk a little bit about our multicultural inquiry and the diversity, and related to the diversity. So kind of the first question I wanted to ask you was, what is the piece of diversity that you really hold close to yourself and that you see as a difference or something that stands out for you?
Well, I think the bigger difference the first one that comes to mind is just being from a bigger city and being from a different cultural background.
And where are you from?
New York.
Oh, New York, New York?
New York.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
See,
so
you
half
learn
and
so
half.
much.
Grew up half here in Texas,
Okay.
but that's something that
It's
I
like
guess
culture.
It's the first thing that I think of because that was my home.
Absolutely.
And I kind of grew up that way. So when I meet new people, that's what's sticking out in my mind. Their upbringing as a child was very different than my upbringing as a child. How about you?
Well, it's interesting because, Christina and I had done this before, and when we were talking about it, I was saying, as I have grown up, I've always kind of questioned, what is my culture? How do I look at myself as a diverse person? Because I feel like people look at me and think, you're a white girl. Like, I feel like that a lot. And as talking with Christina, and I've actually been talking about this in a couple of my other classes, I've been realizing that my culture really is Austin. And so it's funny that you say New York because I was born and raised here, and my boyfriend actually is, the other half of this is my boyfriend is Hispanic. We've been together for almost 6 years, and so I really have a deep-rooted sense of culture in the Hispanic culture now. So it changes for me, but I guess really the Hispanic culture, East Austin, and just being an Austinite in general.
And Austin, exactly. Austin is very multicultural.
Absolutely.
I think that's why I really like it here.
Yeah.
It is closer to what I'm used to.
Absolutely. Being from New York, I'm sure it feels a little bit more like you've got that.
Yes.
Yeah. So based on your sense of self around being a New Yorker, if you were to participate in a therapeutic group, how would you prefer to be asked questions by the group leader?
I would like that they actually took the time to ask me what my preference was, or if there was anything that would make me uncomfortable, because I think nowadays it's a big mistake that a lot of people who are running groups or therapists have been making, is that they just go in with their theories or their ideas, and they don't start off with that sensitivity, and that kind of turns people away from getting help. I mean, I know people in my own family who are turned away from their therapist for that very reason.
Absolutely.
So I think it's important that you ask, would you like me to call you by your first name, or whatever, that you
or
just
how
take
would
the
you
moment
like
to
me?
ask. Yes.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I think, for me, it would probably be the same. I don't want to just be seen in a box.
Right.
We can have someone look at you and
Stereotype
you,
yes.
But, to take the time to understand who you are and to not just think that you know someone based on what's written on a piece of paper. If I'm in a group and I wrote down stuff about myself, well, still, you need to ask me questions. So I feel the same way. Absolutely.
And that's really interesting that you say that, because it's true. I'm sure you may even have experienced that being around a lot of Hispanics. On the other end, they might be the ones, even if they were in the position to be the client, they might judge you. They might think, oh, she does not understand.
Absolutely.
She doesn't, we can't say that to her, or she might get offended. And you might not, because you might understand that already about the culture. So
absolutely. The biracial relationship thing, like, people don't, you look at me and you won't know that by just looking at me.
Right.
Yeah. So, is there anything about yourself that you would want a group leader to respect or understand based on your culture or identity?
Yes, I would like them to understand that it's not always that there's a lot of things that are theoretical advice that a lot of therapists and psychologists might want to give to someone who, let's say, they think is overextending themselves or whatnot. And sometimes in a lot of the black cultures, a lot of Hispanic cultures, it is a just a family belief system that they need to take into account, and not so much a personal what would you say, a personal bad decision to overextend themselves. But so there's a fine line there, and maybe it's on my mind just because I've seen it repeatedly lately. But even so much as the responsibility that one might feel for helping out their family members, or their sick family members, or their old family members, somebody might say, well, why do you think that's your job? That's not your job. That's not your responsibility. And, the culture says otherwise. What we are raised to believe is our core family values are, we are the most important people to each other.
Absolutely.
So we have to
and
come
we support
first.
each other.
Right, we have to come first. So your family will have to come first, but you can go in another context, in a therapeutic group or a group therapy of some sort, and they might not see it that way.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
So it's true if it's a problem that I believe the therapist should bring it to their attention. But I think a lot of people don't start off, a lot of workers who are the leaders don't start off with that in mind before they slam that door shut. Because if you offend the client and they think that you just don't understand who they are, most of the time they'll just not want to get help.
Right, the therapeutic relationship will have, it'll be stopped.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's something that I think about. I've seen a lot of people make that mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand that. So for me, I guess, I think it would just go back to what I said before about
stereotype.
Yeah, understanding that, I may go into a group and I would want them to understand that I am more than what I look like. And, I come with a lot of different knowledge that you don't know by looking at me. Like I was a midwife for 5 years, and I have, I've been homeless, and I mean, there's a lot of things in my past that I've overcome, and I'm in a biracial relationship, and there's things that are bigger than just my face.
What they see on the outside.
So it just goes back to, I think, learning and not just taking things at face value.
Yeah, so it sounds like that would be important to you, that somebody took the time to find out who you were.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Definitely.
I agree. That's a good point. Somebody should take the time to see, who are you? Not just look at you and read you and make you out to be who they think.
Right. Well, and it's interesting also that you were saying about like how taking care of family members can, for some people, or some people might say, why are you doing that? Why do you feel like that's your job? And I've actually gotten a lot of the same feedback from friends of mine in my help with my mom and my help always being there. And people say, you don't always have to be there. And it's like, no, that's what is a part of my